Welcome to Speaking of Reading. Today I'm joined by Julie Brunson, Program Director at All Ages Read Together. Julie, welcome to Speaking of Reading.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So today we're here to talk about early literacy and in getting children into reading and how we can help parents engage their children in reading to develop those early literacy skills. What are a few ways that an educator can help parents reinforce work that is done in the classroom?
So anything that is building their language, building their vocabulary, singing songs, reading books at home. They don't have to read the words on the page if they don't read English. They can just tell the story. They can ask the child to tell the story back to them. Rhyming is great. Counting when they're cooking with their child. Looking for letters on signs or starting to read simple words on signs and things like that.
That reminds me of when my son was little and he was just learning his letters, and then he would see an A somewhere and he would point it and go, ah, 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 ah.
Right. Well, a lot of times you do start with the letter, and we start with relevant letters. So we start with the letters in their name. We start with their first name, we move on to their second name, and then we move on. Once they get the letters and master the letters, we do move on to the sounds.
So thinking about moving on and mastering, is it okay to read the same book again and again to a child?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
So they do ask to read the same ones over and over, and I think it helps build reading comprehension. It helps their memory. It helps build the language and the vocabulary. They start to associate what the words mean, that the letters make the words, and what the words mean. So definitely.
Excellent. What were some of your favorite books from your childhood?
So my favorite book from my child was Caps for Sale. And I loved reading with my kids when I was younger. When they were younger. So some of them were some of the books that I read when I was little. I think like Goodnight Gorilla. My kids liked Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. I think they liked Goodnight Moon. Swimmy was a favorite.
Lovely. I was thinking about Goodnight Gorilla and finding that red balloon all through the book and how important that was. More important than the story was looking at the whole context of the picture. And we'd make up stories about the balloon. So we sort of used the book as a springboard to make up new stories together that were simply oral communication rather than written, but it still kept him engaged in the reading as we went along.
Right, that's a great thing to do with your child, is to make it up as you go along. And that book is good because it doesn't have very many words in it.
Exactly. Does reading aloud help a child with word acquisition?
Definitely. It helps them become curious about words and language. It helps them learn new vocabulary. And I think they start to associate, the balloon. It starts with B, and then what that word actually matches to the picture.
Fantastic. Julie, thank you for joining us today on this episode of Speaking of Reading and sharing your insights on how we can help our earliest readers build their literacy skills for their future success.
Thank you for having me.